make sure that you keep yourself on mute throughout the duration of this session. If we ask you to come off mute, you can do so at that time, but until then, just stay on mute. This is being recorded and will be posted on our webpage by the beginning of next week. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass the mic over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for making the time and congratulations to being admitted to the University of Maryland. We are just going to take a small bit of your time to go over university honors and then answer some questions. So as Ms. Smith said, if everybody can just stay on mute and do your best to save the questions for the end, so that way we can answer general questions all at the same time. But if you feel moved that you don't want to miss out on maybe a slide that you think is important and you want to ask a question, by all means, feel free to put the question in the chat and we'll do our best to answer it as the questions come up. But we really want to make sure we have enough time at the end to answer whatever questions you guys may have, especially general ones that are popping up in the chat. My name is Migdalia Maldonado. I am the Associate Director for Student Life and Engagement. I'm the newbie here. So in the fall, whoever chooses, we hope you choose us. We'll all be new. We'll all be doing this for the first time. So I'm excited to see faces and names associated with University Honors. Thankfully, I have my wonderful colleagues here to support me in providing you the information needed. So as Ms. Smith said, we have our director, Dr. Blotti. We have our lovely assistant director, Chelsea Bradford, to go over the student life portion. Mr. Dario Middleton to answer any curriculum or academic questions in regards to our clusters and tracks. You'll know what I'm talking about as soon as we go through that. And then our lovely ambassadors, who are all UH students, Morgan, Maria, and Alexa. So again, we'll really verbally answer the questions toward the end. But if you feel moved that you don't want to miss out on an opportunity to chat, by all means, put it in the chat and we'll answer. I think that's a good intro. I think, we get us to the right energy to start. So Dr. Blotti, by all means, take the reins.
Thanks, Migdalia. As Migdalia says, my name is Stephen Blotti, and it's really good to be with you tonight. I'm grateful for you all looks like 143 of you making time on a weekday night to learn a little bit about our program. As you can see here, this is our staff team and the various roles they play. And this maybe gives you a window into the size of the program and the array, through the array of faculty members who teach for us. And I'll give you a taste of some of the courses that they offer here shortly. So here, as Migdalia said, the plan is to talk a little bit about the program in general, academic life in particular, student life, and get as quickly as we can to your questions. And that's what we will do. So a bit about the program. As Chantal mentioned, we are the longest established honors program. We're kind of the legacy honors program on the campus at the University of Maryland. We trace our roots back to the mid-1960s. But in some ways, we're almost as new as some of our most recent editions, and in some ways newer than even some of the programs that we have in the college, because we really underwent a top to bottom kind of redesign just a few years ago. So I think what you'll find with us is a program that feels very current and very fresh. Certainly that's something we aspire to be. A bit of sort of by the numbers data here. We matriculate about 450 to 500 students each fall. So you can see that we've got kind of just north of 900 students who are currently active and pursuing the honors citation, the University Honors Citation. And then because we're a two-year program, that means that we've got 500 or so, 600 or so students on the campus who have completed their citation already, but are juniors and seniors, perhaps in departmental honors or doing other things on the campus. You can see a little bit about our gender breakdown. I think the numbers that I would draw to your attention are the number of majors that we have represented in our student body. So I think there are something on the order of 110, 115, something like that, majors on the campus at the University of Maryland. And you can see by that number that represented in our student body is the lion's share of those programs. So there's a real opportunity here to complement, I think, the experience that you have in your major, where you're with fellow computer science students, psychology students, public policy students, what have you, with an experience where you might, I think, can benefit from acquaintances with folks who you otherwise wouldn't cross paths with. And that, I think, is one of the main ways that students, in learning about other majors, find their way to picking up a second major or a minor or switching a major altogether. I think that happens when you come in contact with those other disciplines that you might not have ever even considered. And that's certainly something that in a very deliberate way through our curriculum, but also in the representation in our student body, we enable you to do. I'll tell you a little bit more about clusters and tracks and houses and all of that here in a moment. And this briefly is a glimpse into our mission. I won't read all of that here, but we've highlighted just a few words that I think give you a flavor or a taste of what our values are, what matters to us. And the discussion of the curriculum here in a second, I think, will bear that out. So when I talk about our curriculum, I think you can summarize it in basically 3 ideas that won't make a whole lot of sense to you when I say them out loud at first, but I'm hoping to explain them for you. So the first is the idea of achieving breadth through multidisciplinarity, the idea of depth through structure, and the idea of flexibility through choice. So let me tell you what I mean by each of those 3 ideas. When we talk about breadth and multidisciplinarity, among the features of our curriculum is that we have courses that are taught by faculty from literally every academic college and school at the university. And I think that's one of the things that really differentiates us from any other program in the Honors College. Is that we represent it. We are in some ways a microcosm of the university as a whole. We're sort of a little liberal arts college unto ourselves in the array of courses that we offer. As I mentioned, we have students who are pursuing virtually all majors on the campus, and one, I think, of the really attractive aspects of our curriculum is that we strive really hard to ensure that as many of our courses as possible carry general education credit. And what that will mean for you as you come to the university is that you'll be able to essentially double dip. You as any University of Maryland student does, you'll have to satisfy your general education requirements. And if you're a university honors student, or for that matter, a student in any other honors college program, you're pursuing your citation, which is the transcript notation that you receive at the end of your 2 years in one of our programs, or 4 years in the case of Gemstone. And if you can do both of those things at the same time, that makes life for you a lot easier. So you are receiving general education credit for courses that you take with us, which are themselves, in furtherance of your citation. The other thing about general education that I'll just mention is that our curriculum, because we're a general education program, we devote a lot of time to those courses, and they are, I think it's fair to say, more interesting, funkier, more current versions of the kinds of courses that you would have to take to complete general education requirements elsewhere on the campus. So you're not only double dipping, but you're double dipping in ways that I think are genuinely interesting and engaging for you. So by depth through structure, it's really the structure of our curriculum that I have in mind. And I'm just going to walk through very briefly some of the key pieces of furniture, if you like, of that curriculum. We have our Gateway Seminar. This is a 1-credit course that all entering UH students take in the first semester when they join us in the fall. And it does a lot of things here. I'm not going to go through all of this. But as much as anything, it orients you to the university, it orients you to the program, it kind of gets you off on the right foot. And it is also, I think it's important to say, a place where you will begin to meet many of the friends that you'll make in the program. So it's also kind of a vehicle for community building as well. The sort of meat and potatoes of our curriculum consists in 2 different kinds of structures of courses. So we call these clusters and tracks. And the idea of a cluster is that we take a theme and we put together several, 3 or 4 typically, courses that all relate to that theme from a different disciplinary perspective. So we might have the theme, in fact, we did have the theme a while back, of revolution, and we'll engage that theme from a historical perspective, from a musical perspective, from a scientific perspective, from a social perspective. The idea being that not only do you learn something, we think, about the theme of revolution, which presumably is the reason why you might opt into this cluster, but you also learn something about the disciplines that you're exposed to. So you might be, a music major, say, and so the class on musical revolutions might be especially attractive to you, and you might know a lot about music, but you might not know so much about history, say. And in engaging that same theme from those different disciplinary orientations, we think you come away learning something about what those disciplines can do and maybe what blind spots they may have when engaging certain topics. The second, so you want to know what those themes might be. So currently we have 8 of these clusters running. Now, a feature of these clusters, and this is very intentional in its design, is that they are constantly rotating. So any given cluster has a lifespan of 2 years. And what that means is that, and we bring them in and send them out in groups of 4. So what that means is that at any given time, there will be 8 clusters you can choose from. And every year, 4 of them cycle out and 4 new ones cycle in. So you can see here that currently we launched this year 4 clusters on these themes: freedom at stake, global crises, sustainable futures, redesigning life, and systemic racism. And we are, in fact, just about to announce next week to all of our current students the next set of clusters that will be on offer beginning in the fall. I'm actually going to give you a sneak preview of those here, but keep it under your hat. So the 4 clusters that we will be introducing this fall as a set cycles out will be on the themes of civil bonds, health matters, metamorphosis, and heritage. Now, you really have to kind of look into the classes to understand what those themes are about, but what they all have in common is that they are comprised of courses that engage those ideas from lots of different disciplinary perspectives. So you'll find in each of those courses that really range from public policy to journalism to biology to you name it. So the second structure in our curriculum we call theory and practice tracks. And the idea here is to pair 2 courses, again, around some idea or other, but where the difference between those courses isn't so much disciplinary, it's more about a kind of theoretical or scholarly or academic approach, or in the case of the practice seminar, a practical, boots on the ground, experiential course of some sort. So an example of that might be our track on climate in crisis, where we have a course on climate ethics and we have a course on climate policy. What that really allows us to do, and this is a significant, I think, feature of our curriculum, is to bring in experts from the DC area. Many of these classes, and particularly the ones on the practical side, are taught by people like DJ Rosenthal, who's actually a UH alum and is also the former director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council, spent years working in the White House in the Obama administration, about as expert as they come when it comes to national security issues. He teaches that practice course for us in a theory and practice track. And we make a point to recruit from the DC area so that you have exposure to people who are working in the State Department, who are working in all kinds of areas of DC that you might not otherwise have access to. The last course that you'll take with us in probably the second semester of your sophomore year is what we call Vantage Point Seminar. And this is a course that comes, I think, at a really important time that's otherwise sometimes overlooked during your 4 years at university. Universities, I think, do a really good job of bringing students in and getting them ready to go. And they do a really good job of getting them ready for the next step, be it grad school or some profession or what have you. But often the middle is where we could do better. And it's in the middle, around that time, sophomore year, where you begin to make some really key decisions. Are you going to study abroad? Are you going to pick up that second major? Are you going to switch majors? Are you going to pursue an internship? If so, what kind of internship? Are you going to apply for a national or an international scholarship? This is a course that supports you at that key moment in your 4 years at the university. And it serves as a kind of pivot for the second half of your time at Maryland. So it prepares you, gets you ready to maybe move into the honors program in your major. That's certainly one thing that happens a lot in that course. So this is what the curriculum looks like kind of in a snapshot. You'll take the Gateway Seminar in your first semester. You'll take 2 courses out of a cluster, maybe 2 courses out of 2 clusters, and then you'll take Vantage Point Seminar. Or you might swap out that one of those clusters for a theory and practice track. That's the basic idea. So that comes to 15 credits. And once you complete those 15 credits, you earn your citation at a lovely ceremony we do every year. And as I say, this is because we're a 2-year program, we're a program that's preparing you for those next steps that I know a lot of you will have in mind as soon as you join the university. We certainly see the work you do with us as very deliberately designed to facilitate these kinds of next steps as juniors, seniors, and beyond. The last thing I'll mention is this idea of flexibility. Again, one of, I think, the very distinguishing features of UH versus a lot of other living learning programs at Maryland is that ours is not a curriculum where everybody sort of marches through in lockstep. It's rather a curriculum where you have some basic requirements. You just saw the ones I mentioned, but where you have really maximal choice. You choose which clusters and tracks you want to take. You choose which courses within those clusters you want to take. These courses are almost always, there's an exception or two, but almost always non-sequential. So you can take them in any order. You can take them, you could take both of them at the same time. You might take one course in the first semester of your freshman year and not take the second one until the second semester of your sophomore year. There's a lot of flexibility. And that, I think, if you talk to our students, and I know we've got some on the call tonight, I think what you'll hear is that flexibility is really appreciated because it allows our students to pick up a double major, to pursue a major that might be really prescriptive in the order and specific courses that it requires. We give you the flexibility to navigate all of those choices, I think, in a thoughtful and careful way. And with that, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Chelsea Bradford, who I don't see on my screen, but I believe is here. There she is.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Bradford. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director for Student Life with University Honors. I'm also an alum of the University of Maryland and of the program. I followed the old curriculum, and when I heard they were changing and really bringing new life to the program, I was like, sign me up. I'm ready to be here. So I'm going to talk to you about student life, and we have gotten a lot of questions already. I just want everyone to know that we're going to address a lot of them at the end. So you're welcome to still put them in, but at the end is when we're going to get through all of them, okay? So first, we're going to talk about Heritage Community, Living Learning Program. We talked about the learning, we're talking about the living now. So Heritage Community is located centrally on campus, and Heritage Community is our home. It is comprised of 3 buildings, our 2 residence halls, Johnson Whittle Hall and Pian Chen Hall. This is where most of our first year students choose to live. They choose to be with us, so they will live there when they're choosing to be with us. And then Yahentamiti Dining Hall, that is named after the Piscataway word for a place to go to eat. And the University Honors space, the University Honors Commons, is at the ground floor of this space. So we are in this community wholeheartedly. Our students are right there living, building away. They come down to class. People will have lunch at 12 and then be downstairs for their 1 o'clock class with us. So we are very much immersed in our community. Heritage Community is pretty new. So that's what we're going to talk about, the residence halls and kind of their setup. So both of the halls have mostly singles and mostly doubles with a few singles available. Each floor has 4 lounges, 2 study lounges and 2 general purpose lounges. There is trash, laundry, and recycling. There are gender neutral bathrooms, and there is storage for your bicycle inside, which is pretty new to some of the spaces on campus. We are centrally located on campus, so we are in the middle of North Campus, which is really close to a lot of things on campus. So we are right in the middle is where the residence halls are. And then for Yahentamiti, this is our newest dining hall on campus. In fact, it's like the first dining hall to open in over 50 years. So actually, it's not. One reopened recently, but this is an all new building. So the other one was a repurposed space. This is an all new building, which is really, really exciting. Over 1,000 seats. It is very popular for all of our students, multiple different stations of food, and it has an outdoor balcony, which has been very popular as of late. There were students out there as I came out tonight, still enjoying their meals in the very nice weather that we are having. Let's talk about the University Honors Commons, which is on the ground floor of Yahentamiti. So this is our space. This space is available to our students, and they can come and study in between classes. After hours, we're open till 9 pretty regularly. Our students can reserve spaces, but really importantly, it's a way to have a grounding in the University Honors community. Our staff and our faculty are all located here, so students can pop in for office hours, connect with myself or Migdalia about, an initiative they want to put on, have an advising appointment with Dario, all in the same spot, which is very new for University Honors, and we're really, really excited about that. So we have our seminar rooms, which are our classrooms, right in the space as well. Many of the UH classes are there. We do events, a lot of events we've done in the space. Just most recently, we did a game night. So the space is really multi-purpose. And again, study rooms, small study rooms, big study rooms, staff, faculty, back offices, and bathrooms all there. Our House Cup program is my baby, honestly. I love this program we set up. It's a way we take this big University Honors program and make it a little bit smaller. So if you remember at the beginning, Stephen talked about that there are nearly 500 first-year students we have this past year. And that's a pretty average number for us. So we worked really hard to build a smaller University Honors community for each of our students, and we're doing that with our houses. We have 4 houses, and they're named after navigational stars because UH is going to help you navigate through college. And your apprentice house based on your gateway class, your first class with University Honors, and that stays with you through your time. In your house, you are completing activities, logging points, and then we have a competition, a yearly competition, where the house with the most points gets engraved on our trophy, which is in the background there. Our most recent winner, House Altair, has been dominating this year, so they might be ready to go for a repeat this year. But it's really too close to call, so it could be anybody's game. Everyone always wonders how we say these names, so I'm going to say them all for you, but they're House Altair, House Denebula, House Eltonin, and House Shella. So the 3 aspects of student life that you can kind of break down our work we do in University Honors are with our co-curricular engagement, our leadership and networking, and our community building. Our co-curricular engagement is our commitment to trips, taking students outside the classroom for learning. Leadership and network, we have a lot of student leaders. Like Stephen mentioned earlier, there are about 57 student leaders this year, but we are building every year and adding more opportunities for our students to get involved. And then our community building. We are really focused on helping our students find other students to connect with, form relationships with. On the screen are just some of the things that we have done in UH, and I'll give you examples of all these things. With our living and learning experience, this is us teaming up with the resident halls to provide activities and events. So we help sponsor the block party at the beginning of the year. I have helped the RAs set up things and initiatives, so on the floor in smaller groups, they can still hang out. Our leadership medallion program is our way to cultivate and honor our student leaders. Our students really want to get involved with us and on campus, and we want to recognize that. So that is an opportunity for our students. We do a lot of peer supporting. We have different groups for our students to find a mentor in University Honors or get some academic support and guidance with other peers. So we do a lot of work with that. Our faculty-led initiatives, our faculty are the best. They are really engaged in this work. We hire our faculty knowing that they are going to work one-on-one with our students, building opportunities, great programs together. One of our faculty-led initiatives is our Students of African Descent Affinity Group. Our faculty members are like, we really want to support this. We think this is great. And then also ranges to, hey, I think an aquarium trip is a great opportunity to really build those biology interests. And also I love talking about fish, so we went. So we have a lot of faculty support in our work we're doing. And then just social events and activities. We do everything. We do a lot of trivia and a lot of game nights because UH students have been pretty competitive. We did major meetups this year was a big thing. So like I said, we have a lot of students and we have students in 85 different majors. Well, how do you know which students there are? We set up an opportunity for you to meet them. So this year we had 95 comp sci majors in the freshman class and over 120 students in the School of Engineering. So we have a lot of students for students to meet, form study groups with, get better acquainted with. And those meetups definitely led to a lot of study groups going forward. I know I went pretty quickly, but I really wanted to make sure we had a lot of time for Q&A because I see the questions coming in. So we're gonna let it get to that now.
Thank you, Chelsea. So yes, I've been putting some general questions down so we could verbally say it and everybody can hear it. For the more specific questions, we highly encourage you to email us or DM us, because then you'll get a very specific answer for you that may not apply to everybody else. So I see some of those, and we just, again, encourage you to use our email or even DM us to try to get you to the person to answer your specific question. But there are great general questions here, so I'll go ahead and read them off. And anyone who sees fit to chime in, by any staff member or ambassador that feels fit to chime in, please unmute yourself and do so. So the first one was, is there a relation between the cluster and track a student selects? Good clarification question.
I can take that one. There can be or not. So I think, one thing, you will sometimes see some overlap or some points of intersection. So we have a track that is ongoing. Our tracks, I should have mentioned, are ongoing. So they don't have a kind of prescribed lifespan that the clusters do. And we've got a track that I actually mentioned on the climate. And we also have a cluster that we're running for one more year that has some courses that concern climate change. So if you came in and you were really into environmental issues, you might choose to take both the track and the cluster and really kind of drill down in that area. But there's nothing that says you've got to do that. So your choice may be driven, and I think often is driven, really exclusively by which classes jump out to you as interesting and exciting. The general education designations also do matter here. So I saw a question about I'm interested in the sciences. Do I have to take a lot of humanities classes? And there are, when you, as a science student, you will have to satisfy general education requirements that will involve courses in the humanities or in the social sciences. And so you're going to do that sort of within UH or outside of UH. And we think that the courses that you're going to encounter with us are especially interesting.
Next up, if you already have AP credit for Gen Ed, which is also part of the citation curriculum, does the AP credit count for both, or does the student need to repeat for the citation?
I can answer that.
Please.
The student will get credit for both the general education requirement and whatever course they receive credit for. But they will still be required to take the required course for honors.
Okay.
Can I just real fast, just wanted to add on to that, because I think we had a similar question kind of going on later. We have a number of students that have an associate's degree coming in with a lot of credits, and they're like, I already finished my general education. Do I still have to take university honors classes? If you want our citation, yes, you do. But now you have the room in your schedule to really just be taking what is most interesting to you, what you are most passionate about, explore those interests. A number of our classes are humanities. I'm seeing that question up too, but we do hire STEM faculty to also come and teach with us and provide that perspective. I think the idea here is that we're trying to help you see the world through multiple lenses. So if you're like, oh, like I'm CS and math, honestly, that's a very popular combo with our students. One of my favorite student leaders is double majoring in that, and he has loved all the classes he took with us. He's like, got to broaden my horizons and meet the requirements I needed to graduate. And he's graduating in 3 years. He's still doing this early on top of all of that. So what makes university, I think, really great in our curriculum is that it is very flexible to what you need. So what you are looking for, I'm like, I just want to take something really interesting, great. Like, I'm trying to double up and really double count my requirements, great, you can do that. I'm trying to get outside my comfort zone, great, you can do that. Like, those needs can be met here. And I think that answers a couple of questions all at once. But if you are coming with prior credit, you would still need to take our classes to get our citation.
Do I have to stay on campus for this program? No.
That's fine. You do not. If you want to live on campus and you are in University Honors, we will automatically be putting you in Johnson Little and or Pion Chen Hall. There's no different priority. Being in University Honors is the thing that will put you in there. If you would rather live off campus, that's totally fine. If you would rather live somewhere else, we do make that accommodation as necessary as well. So you don't have to do anything to say you want to live in those buildings besides just being a University Honors. There are other students that live in those buildings. I saw that question right after that. We take up about half of each of the residence halls, and then there are other students in there. So You get to meet a lot of other people, have people with other interests and inquiries. Some sophomores choose to live in the buildings because they're close to where their classes are. But there are other students in both of those halls. It's not fully University Honors in either of them.
What's the average class size in UH?
I can answer that. So we have really two different class types. So most of our courses are small seminars. So most of our courses are capped at 20. Sometimes they're 22, or we might have a smaller section for one reason or another. But most of our courses are small seminars. In the clusters, you would have seen, I didn't explain this in that little graphic, but you would have seen in that revolution cluster that the historical revolution circle was in the middle and it was bigger. That reflects, among other things, the fact that that is an I-Series course, which is a really specific gen ed that you can't actually get through an associate's degree or through AP testing or anything. You need to take 2 I-Series courses at the university. And those I-Series courses are 60-seat lectures. So if you take a cluster, you might take that history course in that larger lecture, and then one of the small seminars. And then if you took a track, you'd take 2 small seminars. And that would really complete the meat and potatoes of the curriculum. And then the Gateway and Vantage Point seminars are both also about 20-seat sections.
We have a request to listen to our ambassadors. So the question is, can students say why they chose UH over the other program? Feel free to
I can answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
I chose this program because I didn't know what exactly I wanted to major in. So I thought going into UH, since it was so general and I'd meet other people in different majors, it kind of helped me decide, and it did. I ended up switching my major. And I also liked it because a lot of the classes ended up filling my gen eds and they didn't have to do with what I'm studying. I'm currently a finance major. So I got to explore other things, and it was just kind of a nice break between my classes.
I think if all 3 of you can answer, that'd be great.
Pretty similar for me. I knew a couple people who were in honors and they really spoke highly of University Honors. And I knew that I was going in as a psychology major, but I wanted to be around people of all different majors so that I could experience both the different class types and disciplines, but also just meet people who are interested in different things. And I absolutely got that with the friends I made and the people that I met.
My answer is really similar to the other 2. I'm a STEM major, so being in UH has allowed me to take other classes outside of STEM. I've taken humanities classes about prostitution, interdisciplinary, diversity, and they also fulfill my gen ed requirements. So it just fits in really well with my schedule, and I got to meet a lot of people from different majors.
Beautiful. Any other questions for our ambassadors? Now is the time. Take advantage, my guys, because they can tell you some wisdom, because they're here. They've been here for a little bit. So what opportunities?
One just came in.
What opportunities does the UH program offers for study abroad? Oh yes, this is a repeat. What opportunities does the UH program offer for study abroad and internships? For example, the Honors Global Community offers Global Fellowship.
Yeah, so Dario can chime in on that as well, I imagine, particularly about the things that I'm going to forget. But I'll mention a couple things here off the top of my head. For internships, there are a number of things I would mention. When I talked about those theory and practice tracks, I mentioned that practice course often has a kind of experiential kind of component. And in our Transform Maryland track, that beginning this year will mean an internship. And actually, I could say a lot more about that. That track, we're kind of revising right now, and it's becoming a track that really prepares you all for the internships that you will take on later in your time at the university. But we do that through actually experiencing internships themselves. We have a program on campus called Federal and Global Fellows that we count as a track within UH. And that program involves 2 courses. That's why we count it as a track. There's a kind of an initial sort of theoretical course, and then there's an internship in either the federal context or in some context related to global issues. There's a whole array of options there, and if you go to our website, you can see some of those. So those are a few ways that we actually offer internships ourselves. And the Vantage Point seminar is really, as is Gateway, one of the things that's focused on there is in orienting you and making you aware of the internship opportunities on campus. So we know that's a real interest among students, and we kind of double down in preparing you for those and getting you ready. The other, study abroad, this is actually something that we're also working on. I think the main thing I would say is that students tend to find their way into study abroad. I mean, traditionally, it's a junior year experience. It's certainly something you could do before then. We are working now on amplifying some international experiences in our curriculum itself that we don't have that ready for you quite yet. But there are also a slew of opportunities available through our Education Abroad office on the campus, and we can help advise you on where to look and what might work for you.
Ambassadors, they want to know, what do you wish you knew before you started at UMD? Alexa, go.
I would say that just to join clubs like right away. I kind of waited a little long, I feel like the end of sophomore year, to really get involved, but just joining clubs has allowed me to meet so many different people, and joining clubs like outside of my major. Said I was a STEM major, but I joined like Terps Against Hunger, which is like something I was passionate about, like helping people with food insecurity, which I've done actually projects on that in my UH classes. So it's cool to just connect UH with joining clubs. But yeah, I would just say to get involved early.
Maria Morgan?
I can go. I think for me, I would say like not to stress so much about having everything figured out. Like when I first got here, I was so stressed of like, oh, I don't know what I want to study. And like I thought I was wasting so much time, but it's really not like that. Like your degree, or like how many credits you have to take for your degree, you still have to take like random electives to reach the 120 credits. So you have like a lot of flexibility within your schedule already built in, so you can explore other paths. So I switched majors, and now I'm double majoring. I did the UH program, and I think I'm going to still be able to graduate early. It's like everything's possible, especially if you're going to be in UH, you most likely have high school credits. So I wouldn't stress too much. And then kind of what Alexa said too, like joining clubs and like kind of trying to put yourself out there. Like everyone's going through the same thing, and like people aren't really like coming in here with connections already built. So just like try to like build those connections early.
I agree along those lines. The first thing I thought of was really just to like appreciate everything that UH in Maryland has to offer. Like this is coming from a second semester senior, so I'm a little nostalgic. And especially with like COVID, like I feel like I really, like I wish I joined clubs sooner. I wish I went to more office hours, like just really taking advantage of everything that there's to offer, especially being back in person. Because I lost a year and a half of that, so.
Next, for ambassadors, how collaborative do you feel UH classes and the community is in general? That's a good question.
In terms of collaborative, I think my classes weren't necessarily like group projects, but I did have a lot of classes that were like heavily discussion based. So I had one class, and it was like a 2.5 hour class just once a week. and it consisted of us like sitting in a circle and like talking about the readings, and we'd all kind of just go and like say how we felt. And we had what's called, like, people would come visit every week and like talk to us about different topics, things like that. And then like outside of classes, I think like UH has, since it's so big, they offer a lot of like opportunities and like extracurricular activities to do outside. So I would say just like go to those and like make friends there. I think in that sense, it's pretty collaborative. And then like, since you're in classes with people who like live on your floor, you kind of start to like make friends with those people. So like I'd often come back from class and I'd study in the lounge and like see people from classes and we'd study together. And like, that's kind of how you start building those friendships.
Anyone else want to chime on? Morgan, Alexa?
I think Maria covered a lot of it. In my experience, they are, like I also took back in the day, an honors seminar, and that was one of my classes was like 9 people and it was all discussion based. Well, actually I did have another larger class. A lot of it is discussion. So it is very collaborative and you do definitely meet a lot of people. I made my best friends who lived on my floor from UH. And even then just like meeting people in your classes and you see them around campus and it's another familiar face. So I would say definitely very collaborative, and it again is like just another smaller community within UMD.
Yeah, similar to what was already said, I currently live in an apartment with 3 people that I've met through UH, and I've been living with them since freshman year. And you also, in your classes, was like collaborative wise, it kind of depends on which class. Like some classes I had a group project in, and then others I worked on like an individual project. But it depends on like the description of the class, I would say. And you can definitely choose, if you're maybe not as much into the group projects, then choose a class that is collaborative with like discussion, but has like a project that is more tailored towards what you like.
I'm also just going to chime in. I see a number of questions about the classes and sort of, how they're graded, how they're organized. And I would say that there really isn't a rule there. There's such an array of courses that there's not one answer to really any of those questions. One of the things, so every year we have a week that we call UH Week. And this is the time when, among other things, we announce the clusters for the coming year, and if there are any new tracks. And that's happening next week. And this year, one of the things we're doing is we're holding a course fair where a lot of the faculty are going to be present on site for both new and returning clusters and tracks. And part of the idea of that event is that because you have as much flexibility and choice as we offer, it's an opportunity right before fall scheduling happens for our returning students to ask a bunch of questions of the faculty themselves, like, is it really discussion based? Am I going to write a lot of papers? Is it more exams? Is it big? Is it small? Are there out of class activities? All of those kinds of questions. So I think it's important to register how much, not only how much choice you've got, but how much diversity there is in the courses that we offer.
Okay, there's one that's come up a couple times. What is a typical next step after completing these 2 years, assuming you are taking 4 years to get your degree? One thing I will say, right, I'm just going to butt in as an advisor for a couple of years, is that you're going to receive templates for graduation plans, right? And it's always important to keep that in mind. They're templates. You determine your pace. You determine whether you want to take so many credits or you want to reduce it. The important part of freshman year is figuring it out, right? And if you go too heavy, too quick, sometimes that can affect your progress, right? Or affect things. So give yourself the grace to figure things out and really keep in mind that all those graduation plans are templates and you really determined your pace on how you take your classes. That's just me putting my 2 cents in. But again, that is the question. What's a typical next step after completing these 2 years, assuming you are taking 4 years to get your degree?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this because I've gotten this question. I do a lot of our inquiries. I've been coming in via email, and this one has come up. So I wanted to share the answer I've been sharing with people. First, I want to make clear that while we're a 2-year program, you're not like isolated from the rest of campus or anything. Like, this is part of your UMD experience. So our students are taking 1 to 2 classes a semester with us, but you're taking like 5 classes a semester. So you're doing other things on campus, you're getting involved, you're taking Alexa's advice and getting involved early, you're learning about the kids in your major and those interests as well. But after you finish your citation with us, you're still part of our community. We were talking about the alums on that screen. First screen, Stephen has all the numbers. Those are our students that are still on campus. They're still here. They're still getting their degree, but they've finished their program requirements. A lot of those students are still active with us. We have multiple leadership opportunities for them to get involved in. Honors Ambassadors is one of them. We have 3 student leadership organizations that students can join, and they join at all stages. In fact, me and Alexa are on Student Life Council together at the group I supervise, and she joined as a junior, being like, yeah, this is what I want to get into. So you're still part of our community. You still get our emails. You still get the newsletter. You are still involved with us, but you're done your citation. So it's not that you're like, we kick you out, we're done with you. We'll call you for things. We want you to come hang out with us. We want you to join all of our events. We are really big on the fact that like, this isn't 2 years and done. This is 2 years and what's next is kind of how we want it to be. And you are all still part of our community. And then you graduate, and I still call you being like, do you want to do a panel on what's like since you graduated? So it's not 2 years and then you're done. In terms of like, I think accommodation, I'm wondering if you're wondering about like 2 years in UH about the housing. Our housing, students living in Johnsonville and Pyeongchang is for their freshman year. Our sophomore students live all throughout campus. So freshmen do not pick their housing location. That's why it's assigned to you. Then from there, you get to like actually shop. It's like an Amazon shopping cart, and you pick the room and you shop. And our students move everywhere because we're pretty far from the business school. Students are like, I want to be closer to where my classes are over there. Or they're upgrading their housing type. So this is a traditional style building is what Johnsonville and Pyeongchang are, which means there's a lot of communal everything, communal bathrooms, communal lounges. You can move to a suite, semi-suite, things like that. And those are, you and your 3 best friends in your own shared space and your own shared bathroom. You're not sharing with a whole bunch of people on the hall. Our students mostly choose to move to these other housing options because I'm honest, there's a lot of freshmen living in Johnsonville and Pyeongchang, and not saying you can't stay with a whole bunch of freshmen, but a lot of people are like, I want to try other things out. There are a lot of apartments on campus and off campus that students also choose to move to as they become juniors and seniors. So most of our students do not live with us past their first year, but they still live with other UH people that they met through our program, and then they go move into an apartment together.
Okay. There's another question for the ambassadors talking about the dorms. So correct me if I'm wrong. You 3 have not been in the new dorms, correct? So they can't speak to the new dorms.
I was in one of the new dorms.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys can talk about the dorms and the social aspect of it, go ahead.
I can start. So I can only speak to the older dorms. I was in Hagerstown, which was the old UH dorm, did not have air conditioning. It builds character, as we like to say. But I had it, like, I can see, I mean, I feel like in my experience, excuse me, like some people were in the lounges because it had air conditioning, but for me, that wasn't like an impact. Like I still hung out with everyone on my floor. I remember the first night, like I was told as a freshman, oh, the first night everyone like had their doors open and they all want to meet each other and hang out. And like everyone on my floor had their doors closed. So my roommate and I literally went door to door and we're just saying, hey, you want to play cards? You want to hang out? And we got people from the floor above, the floor below. And like, that is literally how I made my best friends. So for me, like that, the AC specifically, that's what you were asking, like didn't have much of an impact because you can still just knock on a door and be like, hey, what's your name? Let's hang out. And the lounges are a great space to do that, especially initially.
I think that like I lived in Hagerstown as well, so we didn't have AC, but I feel like people on my floor mainly just went to the lounge just to hang out because we wanted to hang out. And I feel like it really just like make it like what you want it to be. I feel like is some of the other floors like maybe weren't as social, but then the people from those floors would come to my floor and then hang out with us. So it just you I guess the best way to say it is like if you want to be social, then just go out and knock on someone's door or sit in the lounge and someone else will come join you in the lounge. So just because other people aren't doing it, like doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah, so I lived in Pyeongchang last year. I loved it. Like I guess I could see why people would be like less social because we have AC in the rooms. But I honestly don't think that was true. Like a lot of people would study in the lounges and like just sit together and talk about their classes and stuff like that. And then we also had the same thing, like what Morgan was saying, like first week of classes, people would leave their doors open. And then like when you'd walk around, they'd say hi or they'd like play music, knock on each other's doors. So like you kind of just get to know each other since the beginning.
We're almost at that time, so we want to make sure that we go over the dates to remember. February 20th is the deadline to submit your Honors College preferencing form for best consideration. We will have open houses March 10th and the 31st, April 10th, and April 21st is the virtual one, the one virtual one. The others are in person. And then May 1st is your deadline to confirm enrollment and apply for housing at UMD. Again, if we can just go back to the contact slide, information slide. Feel free to hit us up on IG with a direct message or email us with like a really specific question that you may have, so that way we can answer that and, you know, assist with your decision making. We are here to get you as much information as possible so that way you can make an informed decision, and just hope that you choose UH, the very least, University of Maryland. So we